Smart 24, driving business.
Hello there, welcome to Business Today. I'm Jerome Paul Tonko with Winnie Williams and Akoji on Sign Language. We're coming to you live from Plot 42, Nile Avenue. And this is Business Today, and you're watching Smart 24 TV. And in tonight's bulletin, we look deeper in National Development Plan 3. We look at tourism and how it is being affected by the Ebola epidemic, and also looking at the revival of the Cooperative Bank in Uganda. And speaking of which, we kick-start it off with the revival of the Cooperative Bank in the country, as the Cooperative Bank will shortly resume operation thanks to the Ugandan government. And this follows the resolution which was passed during the 54th Annual Members Conference of the Uganda Cooperatives Alliance. The State Minister for Commerce and Cooperatives, Honorable Frederick Gume-Ngobi, announced during a public speech that the Cooperative Bank will be revived, with each member expected to contribute 5 million Ugandan shillings. Naomi Mutumba reports.
The economic environment in the financial year 2021-2022 has been challenging, occasioned by COVID-19. However, cooperatives have been less affected. The Cooperative Bank is said to be revived, with each member contributing 5 million shillings. While addressing the cooperative members, the State Minister for Trade and Cooperatives, Frederick Gume-Ngobi, disclosed that this will help the Cooperative Bank not to rely on government support and other banks which do not reach the rural areas.
We will get out of this scenario where private banks like our colleagues of Stanbic only concentrate in urban areas, denying the rural places financial services. Why aren't we coming together? We have talked about this and I'm getting ashamed. Let's walk the talk. It is a meeting for men and women. By the time you close, you should walk the talk. We met the president. Luckily enough, he gave a very big blessing that the Cooperative Bank of the cooperators should be formed. So what are we doing? We have made efforts. We have carried out a study. We have done that in Kenya and South Africa. We now want to invite you people, and we start on the mission.
Each member is expected to contribute 5 million as an initial capital as part of the resolution to re-establish the bank. In addition, the Cooperative Bank will have a fair interest rate of 5% as opposed to the central bank's present interest rate of 10%.
The other issue is the issue of the Cooperative Bank. Yes, all the cooperators have unanimously resolved that we need to start a cooperative bank, and I'm happy with the government because the government is very supportive, His Excellency is supportive. So I'm also happy with the cooperators who have unanimously passed that resolution to have a cooperative bank, and they are ready and willing to capitalize their bank.
To start the cooperative bank by themselves, government will find them on the way. And part of the resolutions we had in a meeting which we held on 26th of this month, it was a meeting between Uganda Cooperative Alliance and Uganda Warehouse Receipt System together with cooperatives. We made the resolution that the cooperators, are going to contribute 5 million each as a startup capital for their own bank, because Government has already taken long to respond to this call.
During the 54th annual members meeting, it was revealed that 25 cooperative unions have already received compensation totaling to around 200 billion over the course of 7 years, and the government plans to pay the remaining ones as well.
Appreciate the fact that the government has compensated most of the unions, but others have not been either fully compensated or others haven't been totally compensated. So the members unanimously agreed in the presence of the Honorable Minister of State for Cooperatives that government should expedite the process of compensating them.
Past 7 years, given out compensation to 25 cooperative unions to a tune of 200 billion, if not less, I think 126 billion. But for the past 7 years, I need to use this opportunity to tell you, Mr. Chair, what happens in this compensation? One, you're right that we lost property. Even the government is aware we lost property.
Uganda's third national development plan, whose goal is to increase average household incomes and improve the quality of life of the citizens of Uganda, recognizes cooperatives as central in mobilizing and organizing farm-level production, value addition, marketing, savings and financial intermediation at the local level. Therefore, a thriving cooperative society is critical for Uganda's transformation towards an inclusive middle-income country. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now we look at addressing the national content gap. Every industrialized country depends on manufacturing to organize, promote, and carry out transfer of welding technology for the benefit of welding industry participants. Uganda's Welding Federation and Welders Society have teamed up to attract international investors and control the market for sizable investment projects. Rona Nahabwe reports.
National content means the level of use of Ugandan local expertise, goods and services to finance Ugandan citizens and businesses. Opportunities are rising, particularly in the oil and gas sector, but the bidding process is very stringent, leaving most Ugandan companies out. In this context, local content is not being utilized in Uganda's welding society.
Finding a big gap that Ugandan local people are not much involved into the oil industry opportunity. Not only such an opportunity, but even what's after the putting up the oil facilities and so on. Maintenance technicians, welders, inspectors, fitters, all those are not there. The reason is that there is now need to come together, all African continents, to start working to that problem.
But what could be done to bridge this gap?
We need to build capacity within the local industries. One, taking them through the trainings of standard. When you are doing welding, welding is not just doing welding. Welding is the last bit of a product. But the processes through you tend to make this camera in terms of parts to make it functional. Those are the standard documentations that are needed, or the training that people should go in. Now, I would agree that we may not have the capacity now, but we must build the capacity in the next 10 years to create maintenance technicians that can be ready to solve problems at that time of arising. As a serious business element, they are only getting it to have money, buy something or build a house. Welding is a business, and I tell you, welding is the master key of any manufacturing industry and the developed economy. So the reason why we need now to bring in the standards, companies that are in serious business of welding, there is need for growth in education, more research, not only to do what you need to do.
A hybrid meeting with representatives from Ethiopia, Tunisia, South Africa, Liberia, Kenya, Morocco, and lead to creation of joint ventures with businesses already established in the sector. This will strengthen the infrastructure since the meeting is focused on
there is oil in Uganda, you're going to have all manners of attention and interest, both genuine and fake. Why can't we share solutions? That means in this problem now that is coming, the oil and gas industry now that is coming, you will find some problems that you'll not be able to solve, technical problems. This is where the joint venture comes in. Instead of leaving the funds, the investment to leak out of Africa, instead of leaving the investment to leak out of Africa, to leak out of the system, there should be collaborations among African companies that have built capacity through the years to solve these problems. That way, one way or the other, the money remains in circulation in Africa, and that is the way we can create more jobs, increase GDP.
The society has to be active in the creation of both national and international welding standards, given its growing influence in the sector. Rona Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's look at the tourism industry and the Ebola epidemic. The tourism industry, which makes up a significant portion of the country's GDP, was severely impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak, and it has been trying to recover for the last 2 years. But the current Ebola epidemic has shattered those aspirations. Desire Namubiru looks at it in the business angle.
A significant economic engine, the sector has been badly damaged by the Ebola outbreak in Uganda. According to this viewpoint, the crisis has shown itself in the suspension of flights to Uganda and the issuance of travel warnings by tourism-producing nations to Ebola-affected regions. Following the country's Ebola virus disease outbreak, a great number of tourists are postponing their trips. Booking cancellations have been reported by certain businesses, but despite this, there is still a high level of travelers' receptivity because potential passengers are continuously looking for the confirmation that travel is safe.
COVID-19 that had the whole sector in a total slumber for over 2 years with lockdowns and the lack of transportation, with those COVID measures that were instituted to prevent the spread of the disease. Right after that, tour operators, business people and the tourism industry came heavy on doing reinvestment in the sector. They were borrowing, they were putting money. Some of them that had the little resources they had set aside were investing it to ensure that we have this total revamp. So now when we have Ebola at this particular point, it's a very bad indicator because one, travel is affected. US Embassy and most of our European markets are flagging off the country, putting very, very hard measures on travelers from Uganda, separate screening.
There has been a desire for adventure and a desire to see the Pearl of Africa, but these desires have been put on hold due to travel limitations and potential risks. In terms of visitor tendency, the popularity of Uganda safaris had fallen by 70%, but it was beginning to rise again. While the limits were being loosened, the goals for recovery have now been distorted by the epidemic.
Mid-August, we're already talking about 50% recovery, more than 50% recovery. So all this, I think, should have gone back to probably 10% or about to zero. It must be going back to zero because people are cancelling every other day. Tour operators are crying, they're running up and down. And it is really going to be affected so much. Because if we talk of $1.5 billion, which we got in $1.6 billion in 2019, we should be going back to where we hoped it was going to recover.
The stakeholders in the sector have expressed concern about the epidemic's long-term impacts and a risk that Uganda's reputation as a tourist destination may suffer as a result of among potential sources of tourism activities.
Yes, short-term, there have been cancellations for those who were coming. They say because several embassies sent out alerts to their citizens that in Uganda there is an outbreak of Ebola. So we've had cancellations of guests, and others have postponed their trips. So that means that when a client cancels, you lose money. You are supposed to refund, or if you have already paid, you have already booked accommodation, then we have to write to them to extend, because the customers will come when Ebola outbreak is completely out of Uganda.
For a country like Uganda to have such epidemics, first of all, it injures the industry, because first of all, it scares the tourists. We've seen a lot of cancellations. People had booked for different trips, different accommodation facilities, but because of the outbreak, they get scared.
The tourism budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 had been reduced from 197 billion to 178 billion Uganda shillings. However, the government has been asked to invest more to mitigate the consequences of the various occurrences. Desire Namberu, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, many thanks to Desire Namberu for that report. Business Today continues, but shortly after this break.